What's up, YouTube? I hope you are ready today to learn about how to build a SaaS business in just 12 months. This is what we're going to be talking about today. I've been thinking about this a lot recently with some of the conferences that I've been attending and giving speeches at up and down the UK, helping founders just like you on their journey. And this contains some of the things that I've learned and been thinking about in all of that time. So the key thing that I want to teach you today is how you can shortcut this process and launch and build a successful SaaS business in just 12 months. There are some key hurdles that you need to get over, some sacred cows that I'm going to try and slay for you today to help you hit this objective faster and at a vastly more successful percentage rate than what typically happens in the market today. Okay, so here is the issue. Most startups start building their product too soon. If you read any startup advice online, you will hear the advice, you've got to build an MVP. You've got to get some software in the hands of your customers. And I think this causes untold misery and destruction within the world of startups themselves, okay? If you start building too soon, you're going to be at major risk because you're going to be at risk of getting stuck thinking you need more money than you actually do to build a bigger, more complicated product than you actually need to build. And if we slow down a little bit, we think about what we're doing, we can actually speed up. And there's the tortoise and the hare was on the start of this slide presentation here that I've got for you today for a purpose, right? I want to turn you into more of a tortoise so that you can win the race rather than a hare running around frantically, making a ton of mistakes and ultimately losing the race, okay? So because they build too soon, they get stuck thinking they need more money to build a bigger, more complex product than they actually do. And if you fall victim to this, you are at huge risk. You will spend too much money to launch your idea. You will wait to sell it until it's after it's launched, which is a huge risk and failure mode for most startups. You will try to build something that no one wants, okay? And that is the worst way to fail. Please don't fail in that way. And you will spend 2 years trying to find product market fit, which is where you can acquire customers, get them into your product and keep them happy enough, long enough that they become a profitable customer for you to have acquired, okay? These are all the risks that you face if you build too much too soon. In this video today, what I want to teach you, I want to tell you a little bit about how money really gets raised by early startups so you can avoid the investment trap. I want to tell you how you can shortcut finding product market fit to just 12 months so that you can build, launch, and grow a successful SaaS business much faster than typically happens. I want to show you, in order to do all of this, the correct and real launch sequence that successful startups use versus what I see the vast majority of people using, which is why they fail. And I'm going to show you, once you've got all of this in your brain, how you can identify the risks that are left within your specific startup. We've built a little tool for you to use. You answer 20 questions and it gives you a radar graph of all of the risk areas in your business, where you're strong, where you're weak, so that you can knock down those risks before you launch and hopefully have a more successful product launch because of that. Okay. So before we get into the plan, why should you listen to me? I am the founder of Minimal Viable Launch. We work with businesses week in, week out to execute successful business product launches for them. I am the author of the best-selling book, The Minimal Viable Launch, which contains my 8 years of experience of launching products and all of the lessons there. I have been involved in products that have launched and scaled to millions in annual recurring revenue very quickly. And I have been involved in product launches that have been incredible flops, in which we have spent millions of pounds and made absolutely no money whatsoever. And this today, what I'm going to be telling you about is my observation and the lessons that I have learned in speaking with founders, working with founders, being a founder myself, and you know, hopefully I can shortcut some of your pain in this. Okay, and make sure that you don't make the painful mistakes that I've made. To do that, I'm going to need to talk to you really about three things, okay? I need to tell you how money really gets raised in early stage startups, because there is a huge amount of myth and misunderstanding that founders just like you have that causes them to go down a long and winding, painful path of rejection that I think you can avoid, okay? I'm going to tell you a little bit about the myths of launching a startup, what people think you should do versus what successful people actually do, and if you follow the typical process, why it's going to all end in tears and how you avoid that. And I'm going to tell you how to find that product market fit faster, okay? So let's get started. How does money really get raised in startups? What actually happens here, and what can you learn from that process? There is a myth, there is a misunderstanding in the world of startups that all you need is a good idea, and if your idea is good enough, then VC investment firms will sweep you off of your feet and they will give you bags of cash, and then you can stop worrying about acquiring customers and you can go and build amazing technology, okay? Does that happen? Yes. But if you are a first-time founder and you haven't launched, scaled and exited a successful business before, if you are a non-known entity within the world of investment and startups, is it going to happen to you? Very, very, very unlikely. And this idea that you can just think up amazing products and get given money to build them is false, and it causes a lot of delay and pain for startups because they go on the completely wrong journey, right? Here's what pre-seed investors really want. And I say pre-seed investors purposefully here because there is a huge disconnect between what investment funds say they invest in and what they actually invest in, okay? Pre-seed to them means something vastly different to what founders think pre-seed means. What they are looking for is traction. That means having invoices going through the business, a set of initial customers, early adopters who are liking what you're doing and giving you feedback on that, and some kind of working technology that they can invest in. These are the ingredients. Founders that I speak to, by and large, think pre-seed means pre-revenue, don't have any technology, don't have any customers, I have a great idea, give me some money to go and build it. This is the painful trap that you can fall into, in which you spend 9 months trying to raise money, you go to multiple meetings, coffee meetings, you go to pitch events, you go to angel syndicate, networking events, etc., and you're trying to raise money and everyone's giving you all of the nods and yes, this sounds like a good idea, and they'll waste your time with multiple meetings, and then they'll never put their hand in their pocket and join your company's mission, right, by giving you money, because the thing they are looking for is to invest in a business and not a great idea, all right? This is the secret. I've just spent a week running talks and events at Climb24, which is the largest investment conference in the UK for startups and investment firms, okay? And I heard hundreds of tales from both sides of the table, from investors and from founders, about how money is actually raised, the things that actually go on, right? Founders talk about this stressful process of trying to raise pre-seed investment, realizing it was never going to happen, raising money from what they call the friends, family, and fools around, getting some initial money, building something, getting some traction, and then taking that traction to high net worths, right? And VCs talk about the frustration that founders have no clue about what the funding landscape really looks like, what the objectives of those funds actually are, why they invest in companies and why they do not. And they say, we just invest in companies that are ready to take off, ready to launch and scale, and that's what we're looking for. We invest in businesses, not good ideas, okay? Investment is for one purpose. Investment comes in when you have built the rocket ship, right? You've built the startup, you've built some of the initial technology, it's probably pretty rough and ready, but you've got initial customers that you need to take on this incredible ride that you want to go on. Investment is the rocket fuel that gets delivered by the investment firm to help you scale your company. It's not to build the rocket. The rocket already needs to exist, okay? It is to help you scale your company. And don't get stuck trying to raise investment before you're ready, with a built rocket ship. It's very painful. Businesses with traction get funded. This is the story I've heard time and time again. Those founders were so frustrated by the funding experience that no one would give them money to build the MVP, and they needed the MVP to get customers, and they were stuck in this chicken and egg problem until the successful ones realized they've got to be scrappy enough to get attention from a group of people who love what they're doing, okay, want to join their mission, indicate an interest in using their product, making pre-sales, getting letters of intent signed, etc. And then they take that attention that they've got, they take those early adopters and they approach high net worths and they say, look at all of these people that if you just gave me some money, we could do amazing things for them and they would pay us back in return. And at that point, when they have the traction, the investment conversations are flipped on their head. No longer are they not getting calls back. No longer are they having their time wasted. There is a feeding frenzy where people are trying to give them money so they can get in early enough and maybe ride the next big thing to the top. Okay, so your job as a founder pre-launch is to find traction and find ways of measuring the market's want and need for your product so that you can use that to turn around to people with money and ask them for it so that you can build it. The people with money, there isn't a lack of money in the market. Many founders talk to me about this. It's like, there's just no investment. There is plenty of investment. There are billions and billions and billions of dollars flowing around the market in investment in any one year. Okay, there is more money out there than you could possibly know what to do with. The problem is, if you're thinking it's scarce, it's because you don't have traction. And what's actually scarce is businesses with traction is the rare thing. And once they do, money floods and flows towards them because these people with money need places to put it. They beg me all the time in conversations, Lee, let me know the interesting companies you're working with because I need, it's this term they use called deal flow. I need deals coming across my table so I can allocate money to them and start growing that pot of money faster and faster. So again, I want to iterate that most founders operate like the tortoise here, right? They race out of the gate. They don't do enough validation. They don't really know what they're building. They are focused on raising investment and getting to the finish line so they can have the exit that they've always dreamed of. And in doing so, they lay the seeds of their own destruction. Okay, they spend all of this frantic energy bouncing around, overbuilding, building the wrong things, raising some money once they get some initial traction, and then building the wrong things again, spending more and more money, and they get stuck in this cycle. Whereas the tortoise spends more time up front thinking about and learning about what the market actually wants them to build, has a scrappy way of getting it built. The traction is slower at first, but they use that initial traction to build a business, to build a great business case. Then the money flows to them, and that tortoise has the resources to sustain itself, inching forward ever more slowly and slowly, reaching the finish line, which is finding product market fit. So I want you to be your best tortoise rather than the hare. Okay, so let's look at some of the myths of launching a startup. What actually happens when people try to launch? What is the right process to go through? What is the typical process, and where does it all go wrong? You have to, we've talked about this a little bit already in this video, your entire focus as a pre-launched entrepreneur, a pre-launch founder, is you are building a business, not an app. You are building a vehicle to deliver the desired outcome to your customers. You are not building amazing technology. The technology is the thing that people get obsessed with, but really it's the outcome that you provide to your customers and the machine that you build to deliver that outcome again and again that we need to be interested in, okay? What happens when you're thinking about building an app and not a business is that you have a massive initial idea for a piece of software that just could be, you think, absolutely incredible if you could just get it built. and you are obsessed with the technology, you're obsessed with the idea, you start adding on more nice to have features, more North Star vision features into that product. The cost of it balloons beyond any reasonable amount of money you could ever personally finance, right? And you go on this journey and you get stuck raising funds. You get stuck trying to raise investment before you have traction, which we know those investors are not going to reach into their pocket and give you money and save you here, okay? You get stuck there, and one of two things happens. You either never launch the product and you've wasted all of your own personal savings and probably your friends and families as well, or you realize after a period of 9 months that this isn't going to work. I'm just going to get super scrappy, and in any way, shape or form that I can, I'm going to get this product off the ground. And then you get traction, and then you get to jump over this hurdle of getting stuck. Raising funds. So you don't want to get stuck here. Stop thinking about investment and start thinking about how you can get traction instead with the limited resources that you currently had, okay? I want to say one thing to you. If you do what everyone else does, you will get the typical result, okay? If you mirror everyone else's startup advice online, you take the typical path, you will get the typical result. And the typical result in software, in SaaS, is a 90% failure rate. I don't think that's a result that many of you actually want to achieve with your businesses, right? Think about that. 9 in 10 software businesses that get launched go out of business. It's a really risky game, but I think we make this even worse for ourselves by operating like that hare instead of the tortoise, by trying to race out the gates and not slowing down to really think about what it is that we're trying to do. The typical launch sequence looks like this. And if you are currently in this typical launch sequence, I want you to stop, slow down, and see what we can change. Most founders have an idea. They have a strong vision. They have something that really compels them to go on this mad journey. They get obsessed with designing it. They buy the domain, they come up with the brand colors, they design the landing page, they're designing the mock-ups, they're designing the North Star vision, the pitch deck. Everything that they can possibly throw at this idea, they're stuck there designing it and avoiding doing the thing that they actually need to be doing, which is making sales, okay? Once they've done that for a while, then they start to build it. They get enough money together to build their MVP, usually their life savings, their friends and families. They spend $60,000 to $100,000 in building these MVPs, which is insane. They build it, they launch it to great fanfare, the web page goes live, they start running initial marketing adverts, and then they try to sell it. And this is where I get the frantic message of, Lee, we've built something that we think is going to be amazing. We've tried to sell it and no one is buying it. No one's responding to our social media content. No one's responding to the direct messages I'm giving them on LinkedIn or wherever else they're trying to flog this goods, right? No one cares because they never tried to validate the idea in this launch sequence. Now they're getting the validation from the market and the market's going, it's not that great, is it? It's not something that we really want and demand, okay? And this is where they then go into this crazy period of trying to pivot, and find the real problem that they need to be solving so that they can actually make sales. That sucks. So what do actual incredibly successful entrepreneurs do that is different to the typical result? I have seen this personally in the large software as a service companies I've launched, in my own product launches, and with my clients' launches. The more we spend time building and the more cost we put into that building and designing phase, the worse the launch is, okay? And I am lucky in my life enough to have met Daniel Priestley in person, sat down for a late night dinner with him, and this is someone who has launched multiple 7-figure plus businesses again and again and again and again, okay? And I was talking to him about his launch process, and this is what he does that is different from the typical result, and what we now work with with our clients here at the Minimum Viable Launch, because it's just a much more sane and sensible way of doing things. The 7-figure launch sequence looks something like this. You start with the idea, okay? There is someone somewhere that says, I think this could be a really good business to build. I think this could be a really good product to build, and it solves a painful problem. You design it, but what you do is you design a vision prototype, something that is just enough to show people what your idea is, what it's going to do for them, and get them to make a decision of whether they want it or not. Once it's designed, you try to sell it. You try to get early traction, build the early adopter community, a wait list. You go for 30 to 150 signups, okay? You collect data on those people that sign up and who try to buy your product. Once that has happened, then and only then, if you get past the number that you've decided makes you feel comfortable with this risk, then you build it. But here's the thing, once you've sold it, you can raise money because you have the initial traction from those high net worths. You won't need to use your own money to build it. Daniel Priestley doesn't lift a finger and spend a penny of his own money to build something before he has that validation and traction, okay? And once that validation and traction has gone through, then he launches it. And you know it's going to be successful once you've launched it because you've already made sales. You've worked with the early adopter community in the build phase to keep it closed loop and close to your chest. You've listened to their feedback and you've improved the product. So by the time you've launched it, it's an even better product than it would have been in the first place, okay? There is one thing I want to talk to you. If you understand that process of getting traction, of having ideas, offering it to the market and seeing if it's going to work or not, you will never ever go hungry again as an entrepreneur. You have the ultimate skill of an entrepreneur in which you can think of things, you can validate whether they're going to work without spending a single penny of your own money, and then you can find out which ideas are going to be winners, and you just back winners time and time and time again. Okay, it's such an unfair advantage, it's unbelievable, because 9 out of 10 other people are going out of business when they do this because they don't launch in this way. Okay, so let's get into how are you going to find product market fit faster for your startup. Product market fit is this idea that you can create a product, people are attracted to that product, they buy it, sign up, start to use it, and they stay long enough to become happy paying advocates for your product. They start selling it for you. They become net revenue positive. The cost of acquiring that customer is less than the amount of the customer that you make from that customer. And once that happens, you have magic. You are now ready for scale, okay? But most founders, when asked, if you read the data in kind of like Harvard Business Review or from people like Jason Lemking or the Startup Genome Project, they think, most founders when asked, that it will take them about 12 months to launch something, build it, and find product market fit. Okay? That is not what actually happens. What actually happens is, depending on who you listen to, the data ranges, is between 16 and 24 months to find product market fit in reality. Okay? And here's what happens. If you haven't slowed down and been that tortoise and done your initial validation, you launch, you have initial enthusiasm, you're so excited about this idea. Then you realize when no one buys, or they do buy and they churn out the product very, very fast, that what you have doesn't work. And you enter the desert of no traction. And the desert of no traction is an incredibly lonely place to be. It is where you are trudging through the sand, desperate for customers, desperate for cash flow, but no one cares about what you're doing. No one understands the problem you're trying to solve. It bounces off of customers like Teflon, and it's an incredibly difficult place to be because all the while you are burning through your cash reserves to keep the lights on, keep people paid, keep the server costs paid for, keep developing and paying for more and more pivots. Okay? As you go on that journey, as you start to learn more about your customers, you start to see ideas that maybe might just work, and you go through these series of pivots that we've got here. We call these the Valley of Maybe, and hopefully one of those pivots that you find strikes gold, hits product market fit, and once you've hit that product market fit, you are ready for scale, and that's where you go and seek your investment. Okay. The key to escaping that desert of traction, of no traction, faster is by slowing down, being the tortoise, and learning about what your market is actually needing you to create long before you actually build it. Okay? You have to be trying to learn one thing and one thing only, and that's finding the burning hair problem. Finding the problem that is immediate and painful for your customer. Their head is on fire. They need a bucket of water right now to put that out. You need to find problems that are that pressing and urgent, because it's a much easier game to play than building products that are just kind of meh, nice to have. And the way that you win this race is you reduce your capital cost of learning. Most of your competitors go out of business or get stuck because they're trying to raise money because they're operating in the MVP or the production phase of their iteration and innovation process. Okay, they're spending months and years to put out new versions of the products, and they're spending lots and lots of money to do so, having to raise more money, more capital to create the new version. If you are a very smart entrepreneur, you actually operate down here in the research and prototyping phase. You iterate in conversations, not code. You put out new versions of the product at lightning speed. They don't work, they're just vision prototypes that you're testing with the market and seeing, can we make enough sales that gives us the confidence that this is the thing we should build, and we can use that traction to raise the money to build the MVP and give that to the early adopter community that we've already built. Okay, if you're on the bottom left-hand side of this graph, you will survive and you will win. If you're on the top right-hand side of this graph, you're going to burn through a ton of cash and put yourself in a very stressful position. If you want to execute your own minimal viable launch, if you want to see where all of the risk is within your product launch currently, we've created a little tool. I did this for that Climb 24 conference. It spits out a little radar graph, right? You answer 20 questions and it shows you in these 4 areas where your risk is. It shows you how validated is your vision. Have you got early traction? Do you understand your ideal customer profile? And do you have a burning hair problem that you're solving? And if you have low scores in any of those regions, my recommendation is that you go back, you look at the actionable insights that the report gives you, that it generates. You look at that and you address those before you spend any of your own money in risking this product, okay? And it will tell you how to address some of those in the assessment there. So that's the minimal viable launch, readiness checker. Scan that QR code, you'll be able to execute one of those. Hopefully you agree with me that I have told you how to build a successful SaaS software in 12 months, okay? It typically takes most founders 16 to 24 months to build something like this. We've done this by telling you how money really gets raised and why you shouldn't worry about it right at the start. We've told you some of the myths of launching a startup, what the typical launch process looks like, and how you can do this much, much faster by using the 7-figure launch methodology. And we've told you how once you have launched, you can shortcut your route to finding product market fit so it's faster, so that you spend less money, you move faster, and you find that happy paying customers who sell your product for you in record time. Okay, I hope that was useful. Drop your comments below if you're stuck in any way, shape, or form in launching your startup. I'd love to hear from you guys, and we will see you next week.